What's going on? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Lockdown Coverage. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Daniel. First off, before I start this episode, I just want to say that I know that the world has been up shit's creek recently with this whole coronavirus pandemic going across the world, especially in the US, with numbers increasingly spiking. But I don't want to talk about it. I want to take your minds off that. If you guys like NFL news and NFL coverage, make sure to subscribe to the channel. On this episode, on this segment, we're going to be doing a quick little breakdown on player breakthroughs, who I think is going to have a crazy breakout season in 2020, the season coming up, First off, I'm going to be doing offensive players, and then I'm going to break it down to defensive. I think there is more offensive playmakers on this list than there are defensive, because when I say breakouts, I mean players that could go from rookie years to having good rookie years to being Pro Bowl franchise type players. I'm not talking about stepping up and playing a little better than they did in the rookie year, but I'm talking about Pro Bowl caliber players. So before we waste any more time, let's get into it. So I quickly just wanted to specify that not all players on this list are rookies going to their second year. A few of them are second year players going to their third year, but for the most part, they are rookies. First off on the list that I wanted to talk about was young, quick, little tiny quarterback, 5'10", from the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, former first overall pick from last year's draft. I think he's going to be super explosive this year. I think Arizona Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury, their head coach, is going to set up a crazy dynamic offense for them, and Kenyon Drake and Christian Kirk and newly acquired DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. Let's not forget about all dependable. I think Kyler Murray is poised to be set in a crazy position. I think he could be a Pro Bowl type player. I think they could make it to the playoffs. I think they do need to nail the draft. They can't miss on the draft because they are short on offensive tackles, offensive linemen specifically. I think obviously the first priority should be to protect Kyler Murray, but now that they have weapons, they get focused on the offensive line, and it's a good year to have a top 10 pick because there's a few good offensive tackles that could be franchise type players in this draft and for years to come. So Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray, they are number one on my list. Kyler Murray is number one on my list. Another player that I do have breaking out this year also is Miles Sanders, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles. He showed that he could be dynamic in space, even though he was a backup for Saquon Barkley at Penn State. He didn't take lightly to that. He came into this year kind of being slow in the beginning of the year, but showing out at the end of the year, the type of player that he could be. He's a pass catcher. He's phenomenal in space. That's probably his best trait. He also has vision. He can run in between the tackles. I don't know if he could carry the ball 20 plus times a game, but he is that 12 to 15 type carries, 5 catches a game. He's like a miniature Christian McCaffrey. Maybe he could develop into that type of player, that full-time player, but he took the reins from Jordan Howard, the Eagles' former running back. Miles Sanders had a phenomenal rookie year. I anticipated him to grow on that. That is the second player I have breaking out this year, potentially being a Pro Bowl type player, and especially with players like this, it would have to be if they stay healthy as well. That's the most important thing. Another player that I have going into his third year, not second year, is wide receiver from the Denver Broncos, Courtland Sutton. I think he's going to be a beast. He is a mismatch nightmare. What is he? 6'3", 210. He had some spectacular highlights last year, especially with Drew Lock. If Drew Lock, for the quarterback for Denver, continues to develop, continues to show off his arm, all he has to do is throw it up. Courtland Sutton is that type of player. He's that AJ Green type player. He's a bigger body, maybe a little bit more mobile. I don't know if people saw that he could develop into this type of player. I remember him being a second round pick. He kind of fell out of the first round. People were talking about him going in the first round, but he's going to be a monster this year. Another Denver Broncos player who I also think is going to break out is Noah Fant. He really connected with Drew Lock. He was Drew Lock's safety valve. He also showed what he could do after the catch. He was really good at Iowa. Him and TJ Hawkinson. Noah Fant was more overlooked because TJ Hawkinson was more of a possession type tight end. Noah Fant is a vertical threat. He's a Jimmy Graham type player. He could go get contested catches. You could throw fades to him in the end zone. He's a great player. I think he's really going to show out. A few other wide receivers I also have on this list is Hollywood Brown, from a wide receiver from the Baltimore Ravens. Cousin of Antonio Brown. I think he's going to play amazing next year. All that the Ravens really need to prove is that schematically he fits their offense perfectly. works off play action. You could throw the ball deep to him downfield. You could throw bubble screens to him. He could run after the catch. He could beat cornerbacks downfield. He can do everything. He is a little nimble. I anticipate for him to get a little bigger, maybe gain 5 pounds, put on some more muscle, but he might have a little durability issues later on in his career. That's just what I personally think. He is a beast though. He fits that Ravens offense. The only thing holding him back is Lamar Jackson's arm, I think, and his accuracy. If Lamar Jackson can really push the ball downfield, I anticipate Hollywood Brown to have that breakout year. Another player who I think is really, really good, probably my favorite receiver from last year's draft, is Deebo Samuel, wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers. He showed what he could really do in the Super Bowl. He took jet sweeps more than I've ever seen any wide receiver ever take, and he was hitting players, not afraid to take contact. He really reminds me of a little bigger and more physical Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is that same type of player, probably, or I would say he is more sure-handed, but Deebo Samuel could be that player. He doesn't have that breakaway speed, but he does have that lateral quickness and juke and acceleration in tight spaces. That's what you need from a slot receiver. I think Deebo Samuel will be one of the best slot receivers next year in the draft. I just read that the San Francisco 49ers are also looking for wide receivers in this draft with the 13th overall pick that they traded from the Indianapolis Colts. DeForest Buckner. So I think those are the main offensive players I think that will break out, hopefully potentially break out in this year. Now I'm going to be moving to the defensive side of the ball. On defense, this is more of a short list because I don't have really that many rookies that aren't already really good or kind of were out of the gutter, I would say, and didn't have that good of a rookie year that could step up and be a Pro Bowler player. Obviously, there's going to be some surprises on offense and on defense, which happens every year, and it is very surprising, but it's hard to predict. So these are the few players I do think are going to be really good next year. First off, I have Brian Burns. He's a defensive end. Since I don't know if the Carolina Panthers are going to be playing a 4-3 defense again this year, but he's a defensive end, outside linebacker, more or less. He had 7.5 sacks last year. He's the defensive end out of Florida State, I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he has that bend, he has that dip, he can play well against the run. Even though he is more of a pass rusher and he is more nimble, I expect him to also put a little bit more weight. Obviously, you're coming in from your rookie year, you're not built to your physical potential, so all of these players should be more physically ready for their second year in the NFL. But Brian Burns, anticipate a double-digit sack season from him going into his second year. Carolina is a little bit in a rebuilding stage, even though they did sign Teddy Bridgewater, and they still anticipate to be in tight games and close matchups. But I think Brian Burns is going to be a solid player, potential Pro Bowl type defensive end. Another player that people don't know or don't anticipate to have a good year is Nasir Adderley. If you haven't heard of him, he is the safety out of Delaware. Last year as a rookie, he disappointed throughout the board. He's more of a free safety. He has that range. He's explosive, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. I think he should be a turnover machine next year. Think about that LA Chargers secondary. They have Derwin James coming back from injury for most of the year. They just signed Chris Harris Jr. from the Denver Broncos, Pro Bowl corner, slot corner. They also have Casey Hayward, who's a boundary type corner. And now they have Nasir Adderley. Quarterbacks are going to be scared. They're not going to know where to throw the ball. He's going to have eligibility more or less to cheat the field. He might make a few mistakes, but he could have 4 to 5 to 6 interceptions. That's what I predict, because when you have so many shutdown players, quarterbacks try to cheat and play away from those players. Nasir Adderley should take advantage of that and contest those balls. He should have forced fumbles. I don't know if he's that good against in the box. I think he is nimble and small, but he is quick and explosive. He has good hand-eye coordination. Nasir Adderley, expect to have a bounce-back season from him. He did not have a good rookie year. And then the last player I have on this list is Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans. He kind of slipped in the draft because he had an ACL injury. People did not anticipate for him to play last year, but Tennessee had their playoff run. He played 9 games in the regular season. He had 32 tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. he was disruptive in the weeks that he did play, and this is him coming off an ACL injury. He's huge. He's gigantic. I can't imagine the mass and weight he could put on in terms of muscle for him to be an even better player in 2020. I anticipate for him to be a Pro Bowl player. He should be super disruptive. I would anticipate for him to be one of the top defensive tackles if he could stay healthy, stay out of trouble. People said that he had off the field issues coming out of college. I hope that doesn't continue and he fixes himself up. But yeah, Jeffrey Simmons, I think he's going to be a beast for the Tennessee Titans. Had a great year. Those are my breakout players. If you guys like this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. More videos coming on the way from this offseason. Can't wait for the NFL draft. Still going to be covering more free agent news and stuff. Thanks for watching, guys.